Well, hey friends, this is Brie from Homemade on Our Homestead. I just got finished out in my garden. I went to the grocery store and grabbed a couple extra tomatoes because today I'm going to be making a really simple homemade restaurant style salsa in my food processor. So let me show you how easy this recipe is to whip up. It goes together in minutes and it tastes fantastic. So let me show you how. All right, so as you can see behind me, I have all of my vegetables washed and ready to make my salsa. So I'm going to give you guys kind of a rough estimate of what I have here, so you know at the end of the video when I talk about how much this particular amount has made, you'll kind of be able to gauge what you need to purchase from the store or go out to your garden and pick to make this recipe. All right, so from the garden, I was able to grab 2 jalapenos. I have found that when I've made this recipe before, 1 to 3 usually works. It just depends on how spicy they are. 1 bunch of cilantro, 8 tomatoes. So I have a couple different heirloom tomatoes, some just round vine tomatoes, a couple cherry tomatoes. I have 1 sweet onion and a head of garlic. So usually I put anywhere from 4 to 8 cloves of garlic. Again, it depends on the batch size and how garlicky you like your salsa. We tend to like ours with a little bit of extra garlic in it, especially during cold and flu season. So I just used my Thieves Veggie Wash. I got all of my vegetables prepped and ready to go. I have a huge mason jar with a lid and a funnel that I'll be using to get my salsa into this jar. So I just take all my scraps outside and compost them when I'm finished. I have my cutting board and a knife and my food processor. So let's jump into it. So if you guys check the show notes down below the video here, I will have a link to the food processor that I'm using. You can use any size food processor that you have. I have a larger one because when I make things, I tend to do it in bulk so I can can them or process them for later. So I'm using a rather large food processor. You can do this in smaller batches. Just do whatever is easier for you. So I'm starting off right now and I rough chopped 1 batch of cilantro, 1 medium-sized yellow onion, and I put in an entire jalapeno. Now again, it really depends on how spicy your jalapenos are. Sometimes 1 is enough, sometimes half is enough. So you might want to start off with half if you don't tend to like your food very spicy, and just add it to taste. Now I'm peeling my cloves of garlic. I added 6 into my processor. Once we have all of our greens and our garlic and our onion in there, we're going to give this a rough chop. All right, so I just finished pulsing my cilantro, my jalapeno, my garlic cloves, and my onion in my food processor. And I don't usually just hit the on button and let it go because I find it turns into almost like a paste. If you use the pulse button instead and just pulse it on and off, you'll get this really nice rough chop. So now that all my greens are pulsed together, it's time to add our tomatoes. I usually do 1 or 2 tomatoes at a time, and I pulse after each addition of a new tomato. I do this until everything is completely incorporated. Then once I'm done with that, I add salt and pepper again to taste. So I'm gonna start off by adding the cherry tomatoes that I have left. And I'm gonna do the larger heirloom tomatoes. So put your lid back on and pulse this again. So now just keep adding your tomatoes until you've pulsed everything together. All right, and so here is what your salsa should look like. We have blended in everything together. Now we just need to add some salt and pepper to taste. If you don't like this much cilantro, you can start off by adding only a half a batch, but I find that a small batch tastes great. So once I've incorporated all of my salt and my pepper into my food processor, I mix that up just for a second and then I let it sit for about a minute or two. And I take the lid off and I taste it. And then at that point you can add more pepper or more salt to taste. But I start off with a batch this size, again, of 1 tablespoon of the sea salt and a half a tablespoon of black pepper. So now it's time to add our salsa to a jar. So this can go straight into the refrigerator so we can use it later for our tacos for dinner, and then the rest of it I can take on my vacation. I always find using a funnel helps create less mess, but if you don't have a funnel, then you can just carefully pour it in there as well. So this jar is a little bit too full, so I'm gonna scoop some off the top and put it into a bowl so my daughter can have some chips and salsa for a snack. All right, so I have all of my salsa into a jar. So all of those ingredients combined together made about a half a gallon of fresh restaurant style salsa. So I hope you guys enjoyed this recipe today. Give it a try. If you do make it, let me know in the comments section. So that's all there is to making a really simple and delicious restaurant style salsa at home using your food processor. I hope you guys enjoy this recipe and will give it a try. And let me know in the comments section down below if you do. So at the end of all of this, I ended up with about a half a gallon of my salsa that I can use over the next week and a half or so. Now, if you're trying to watch your sodium intake, I would definitely start with a half a tablespoon of the salt and add more to taste. And if you prefer your salsa on the more mild side, I would definitely start with a half a jalapeno and then go up from there. Keep in mind that once you put this stuff in a jar and you put it in your refrigerator or on your counter to ferment, it's going to get spicier over the next 24 hours. So that's something to consider if you don't like your food very spicy. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video and I'll see you next time. Bye guys.